Hi, happy Sunday. Thanks so much for tuning in. Lynn Sharif here, and this month I did a series called Girl, Please Stop It. And this is the last week of that series. So I did 4 different ones, not necessarily in this order, but I covered first, girl, what's up? What is your mouth saying? Our mouths can be an issue. The second week, I did women, stop putting your children before your husband. I also tackled, girl, what do you have on? And on this last week, I covered using sex as a weapon. And so if you want to catch any of these, you can go to lynnsharif.com. I have the videos there. I also have uploaded them to YouTube. So on this week, using sex as a weapon, what I confronted is the concept of using sex, which is a tool. God is so nice. He created sex for our marriage, and it is supposed to be a tool for good. But if you're using it as a tool for manipulation, and this is not necessarily just for women, men may do this as well. But if you're using it as a tool for manipulation, please stop it. Please. And so if you find that you are doing this, saying no all the time, or perhaps saying if you do this, then I'll have sex, just using it as a tool to get what you want, chances are that you're not communicating on a level that's allowing you to get things done in another way, so that you have then resorted to this. And so I really want to go under the surface and deal with the communication that might be going on or not going on in your marriage. So the thing here is this. As a married person, anyone who's been married for any period of time, the thing is that God created this perfect thing, but it's being walked out by imperfect people. And so if you're not able to navigate and communicate on a level that gets, where you're being heard and your spouse is hearing you, you may resort to these other ways of doing it. And so I'm asking you to look at another way of trying to get things done. So when you look at each individual, the reality is that dealing with who you are within the marriage it can be difficult. And oftentimes people may decide to flee and leave the marriage as opposed to dealing with their particular issues, because we have to deal with our individual issues and then our issues as a couple. And so it's hard to do that. It really is. And I'll tell you that my own personal experience is that my husband and I have been married for many years, but yet I was still, because you don't just wake up and say, hey, let's deal with the deep issues of our relationship. You don't do that. So for us, we had come to a place where, maybe divorce was on the table, or maybe we were just not going to be able to live out the marriage that God created for us. And so it was a wake-up call for us. It was a wake-up call, and we decided to do the work, to actually sit down and figure out, okay, what is it within me that's going on? And then what are some of the issues in our marriage that is going on? Was it comfortable? Was it fun? No, not at all. Because I say you really have to stand in the pocket and deal with your individual issues and come face to face with what those issues are and how they have impacted your marriage. So for me, I call it a mask. There was a mask that I would wear where, because it was a second marriage for me. And so a way that I coped with things is that I had a mask on and maybe wasn't being completely vulnerable at all times. Because the only way that marriage is really going to work is if each partner is completely naked and vulnerable before each other. That's the beauty and the pain of the marriage, is that you have someone that you're with and that you're naked and vulnerable, and they see all of you, flaws and all. And in order for them to see the flaws, you have to face the flaws first. That's why I said you have to work on yourself individually and then as a couple. And it's not fun to look at those not so savory and nice parts of yourself and say, yeah, that's me. That's me. It's not pretty. And so I want you to go deeper, because I really want you to win in your marriage. But in order to do that, You have to look at some behaviors and say, why am I angry? Why am I controlling? Maybe your issue. Why do I drink? Why do I want to put hands on my spouse? Why am I a serial cheater? Ask yourself those questions because they're answers. There are answers, but those answers, you have to dig for them and you have to work through them. And then you have to be transparent with your mate about them. That's not all. None of that is comfortable. None of it. But that is the only way that you're going to get to the marriage that you want. People want happily ever after, but then they don't want to do the work to get there. And doing the work to get there is asking yourself the tough questions, and then know that we did not do this just sitting together talking. No, we had a counselor. We had a counselor that we individually went to and went to as a couple to work through whatever issues we had so that we can then be transparent with each other about them. And that's how you get to the marriage that you want. So using manipulative tools like, the controlling, angry behavior. Last week, I talked about using sex as a weapon. All of those things are not going to work. It is only going to work when you are naked with your spouse and deal with the things that are inside of you. And so I have also heard from couples who maybe, sex might be an issue, but it's not because you're using it as a tool of manipulation. Oftentimes women, they're just dealing with a whole lot of stuff. I spoke with a young lady who life is just crazy right now. When you have life and you might be a caregiver, you might have children, you might have a whole lot of things that are going on that's really taking your attention off of your intimate relationship with your spouse. And so a couple things. That can also create a distance, create an emotional distance. And because women tend to, sex is really an emotional thing for them, they need to have that emotional closeness in order to be able to do that. What can you do to try and recreate or have that emotional closeness that you want? So I suggested, hey, listen, go look at your wedding pictures. Look at the reason that you fell in love with your spouse to begin with. Because with life, you can sometimes forget all of that. Go back and look at that. And then create, if your life is crazy, you're going to have to create date night. You're going to have to be very intentional about finding space with your spouse. Uninterrupted space, no kids, none of that. So, sex could certainly be an issue because of a whole lot of different reasons. So address those things. If it's your life and at a deeper level, if you're using it as a manipulative tool, I want for you to look at what is creating this distance between you and your spouse by looking at what's happening with you and then what's happening with your marriage. Do that in the company of a counselor because I want you to win. I want your marriage to win. Marriage is taking a beating. And every single week I hear about another couple who didn't make it, and that breaks my heart. And I want you to win there. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to be doing Marriage Monday, and we'll be entering into another series. As I mentioned, if you would like to hear any of the series of Girl, Please Stop It, go to lynsharif.com or to my YouTube page, and you can take a look at those videos. So thanks a lot for joining. Bye-bye.